Hey, what's up guys? It's Scott from MTG Mind Games, and today this video is going to be a lot different than any of my other videos. In my previous video, I went ahead and told you guys that, if I ever got another Aether Revolt box, that I'd go ahead and do a box opening. Well, just so happens the other night we had our release event, and I was part of a raffle. I just so happened to win the box from the raffle, so it was pretty sweet. Obviously, it was part of a raffle, so everything I open here is going to just be awesome. The box is insane. I'll just have this playing in the background, but there's something I want to talk about during this video, so it kind of serves two purposes. If you just want to watch the unboxing video, go ahead and mute the audio, whatever you want to do, or if you want to listen to this, that's fine too. So I want to talk about today 5 things that'll make you a better Magic player. And I'm not a pro, I'm not anything insane. I have been playing this game for about 20 years now, so it's not to say that I don't know what it takes to just be a better player overall. I've come and go with a bunch of players that I would consider on the pro level. You know who you guys are. You're really good at the game, and I appreciate that you're still very humble in all these things. And a lot of these things I witness in all of you guys. A lot of the pro players and the players who are up and coming to be pros in my area, they all exhibit these qualities in some way or another. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them without naming any names. You guys know who you are. So this is just 5 things that I've written down that I've learned over the years from all of my interactions from everybody, that I think any of these newer players coming along should just keep as just something to think about in the back of your head. So first thing is, obviously, and this is probably the most important, is to be humble. You need to make sure that you're humble, whether when you're winning or losing. After all, it's still just a game for everybody. Whether you're winning or losing, obviously we always want to win, but regardless of the prize that's at stake, the integrity that you show while playing the game is the only aspect of this hobby that will stay with you forever. That's your reputation. So if you're humble and you show that it doesn't matter whether it's for a pro tour or it's for FNM, you're gonna be humble in how you won or how you lost. Don't storm across the table if you lose and get toxic and start cussing at your deck as if you're really cussing your deck when everyone knows you're just cussing at your opponent. Just like salty crap like that. It's unfortunate that a lot of the time what ends up happening is this kind of behavior happens because someone is they have like a social anxiety disorder or something like that underlying, and that's why they're driven to the Magic community. It's a long known fact that a lot of Magic players tend to be your typical quote-unquote basement dweller or whatever, neckbeards. Everyone names everybody these stupid things, but for me personally, I was a metalhead. I had no problem being social in high school. I was in a band for tons of years, and I just started going to my local shop just because me and my friends, we thought Magic was cool, and like D&D was cool, and like demons and dragons and stuff is cool, because a lot of fantasy aspects are in metal also. So that aside, yeah, there's a card game aspect to it, it's collectible and all that stuff, but just be humble. Be humble when you win, be humble when you lose, just equally. A good example would be like John Finkel. If someone makes an error at the Pro Tour at the top level, on camera, you'll see him just being completely humble. So next up, we'll move on. The second thing, you never want to give up until the game is actually over. I see this happen all the time. It kind of goes in line also with being self-defeating, because people will give up because they're either like a younger player, or they're not knowledgeable at the game, or they think that they're not knowledgeable, so they self-defeat. They defeat themselves at their own game. It's really true that you are your own biggest enemy. You're the biggest opponent that you have at the table. If you can overcome your own faults and your own issues about how you play, and get your your mind state right, and get your thought process correct, you'll really be sharp, and you might win your game just because of that one little instance where you didn't mess up. So the opponent is challenging enough. You don't need to help your opponent and be self-defeating. So the best thing to do is, if you're at 1 life, don't just concede just because, oh man, my opponent's obviously got it. You know, how do you know that they're not on pins and needles because they don't realize that, man, I can only get them to 1, but dang, I can't get them to that 1 life. Now I'm just gonna lose, and they get all tilted and they want to quit. So, you know, don't lose hope. Never giving up is one of the key aspects of just, you know, just let the game play out as it's gonna play. You can't really force something. Now, that's not to say that at Grand Prix and, you know, some of these higher, I want to call them mid-level events, GPTs, PPTQs, things like that, people are going to angle shoot you all the time, and you guys have probably seen my angle shooter video. It doesn't really matter. Angle shooting can be one of those things where, you know, that's just something that you have to deal with in the Magic community. That's just going to be from like people just taking like aspects of gambling and bringing it to a card game. Any competitive type of event is going to have people who are going to try and gain some footing by just doing some of the out of the game mechanics, like reading body language, if you have tells, things like that from poker. You can learn a lot if you just read like a poker and gambling handbook. There's so much information there because money's really on the line, so people want to learn, you know, how to not give tells and how to get some advantage over your opponent where, you know, the cards don't really give you the advantage, but all it is, you know, if your opponent gives up before you beat them, then you win. Like that's all it really takes. So now that's not to say you need to be intimidating. Don't be intimidating, please. Like that's that comes with also being humble. You know, you don't want to intimidate your opponent down just because they think like, or you think you can get some edge. That's like one of the worst things I ever see at like release events and things like that, where you have, it's what's now called REL laxed or relaxed rules enforcement level. It's just something that you see all the time where people will like speed you through a game or make you play faster to try and make you mess up, and they expect you to play as fast as they do, and they get all flustered and mad at you if you don't play as fast as they do. That's angle shooting, just so you guys know. And a lot of players tend to do that just to try and see if you can keep up, and a lot of people can't. You know, that's not a normal thought process. But that's why we always have round timers and all that stuff. Anyway, tangents aside, just make sure that number 2, never give up until it's actually over. Never concede until your opponent actually shows you that they have the kill, and they actually follow through and actually kill you. Alright, so next thing, you always want to make sure you're prepared before you go to an event. This is just kind of like a checks and balances. But when I first started attending my first GPs, you know, you'd start jumping into main events and stuff like that. I'm personally not down for the super hyper competitive stuff, but when I was, there was a time when I was, and you always want to make sure that you're prepared. Mentally, it's really good to form rituals before you go to a big event. And maybe that's like the night before, you make sure you pack your favorite sleeves or brand new sleeves if you can. Your lands that you're going to use, so you don't have to get up from the table to go get lands like everyone else if like you're playing sealed. You want to make sure everything's prepared in your deck box. A lot of, you know, a lot of competitive tournaments are going to have the rules that you know you can't have extra cards in your deck box, especially if you're playing at a, you know, a higher level. Life pad, pen. The reason why you want to have a life pad and pen is when you're writing down numbers, or let's say you see someone's hand, you're allowed to write down that information for future reference on a quick notepad, and you just jot down like a word or two, so that you can have that as a reference. You know, you can clear your mental inventory of that and just check back on that notepad. Also, when you write down what your life was before and what your life was after and the reason why, generally it's easier for a judge to go back and double check that information. If you're using dice, there's no way to go back. And a pen or pencil, you know, it can be just a writing utensil. And then obviously snacks. All of that, you know, is just your pre-event preparation. It can only help to ease your mind a little bit so that you know that you can get a good night's rest without any stress or anxiety of having forgotten anything, and just focus on the matches that come the next day. Being prepared is more than mental, it's also physical. So you can't be fully prepared for an event if you don't rest up physically. And make sure you wear like comfortable shoes, nice clean clothes, and that you are definitely in your comfort zone. The events can be hot or cold, so when you least expect it, you need to make sure that you dress appropriately. Just simple stuff like, you know, wear a hoodie or something like that. You'll feel a little more cozy, and if you start to get hot, you can just take off your hoodie and you're good to go. So number 4, we're going to move on. You want to work on skills that you will always keep. So this one I find is probably the most important on here, other than being humble. So it's like second important. For the most part, working on skills that you will always keep, it pertains to the topic where the skills that we learn in like the hobby or the game that can be applied to just other aspects of life. I've been playing Magic for many years, and well, since I was 14, and all throughout that time period, I'm 32 now, just so you guys know, it was a long time. And all throughout that time period, Magic was pretty socially acceptable for me and my geeky friends to collect, trade, and challenge each other with. So there were so many benefits to playing the game that I was able to see because I was actively training myself mentally while playing. Troubleshooting, counting out complex combats, analyzing game strategies. All of us here know the benefits of that, but many members of my family and classmates, they couldn't see it. For all they knew, I was wasting my time with expensive cards that had fantasy pictures on them, doomed to never get a girlfriend or be a basement dweller. Like, give me a break. The negativity was really loud growing up, and now that I'm older, I appreciate the troubleshooting and logical reasoning skills that the game has taught me, from patience and decision making right down to whether a decision to act is better now or 5 turns from now. All of these skills are being learned, and you are being challenged when you play the game, whether you see it or believe it or not. You will become smarter from challenging yourself. You strengthen many aspects of yourself mentally in ways that other activities would rather dull your senses. For this reason, I prefer limited formats like sealed and draft. Learning formats can be rewarding in many ways, but if you're a player who likes to walk through formats independently of borders and barriers, sealed and draft is the way to go. You can learn the skills in these formats and apply them to any set, whether you've missed 1 or 2 sets, or you're coming back after a 5-year break. It's like riding a bike you never forget. And the 5th and final thing I want to talk about here, you want to make sure you cheer on your friends. Make some friends too. I mean, like that's the point that you should just be getting across. If you do all these things, you're looking at more of a bigger picture. So you want to make sure you're cheering on your friends and make lots of them. You'll become a better Magic player, if not just a better person, if you embrace the idea that you're not a lone wolf. You share a common hobby with common people who also play the game that you love. I mean, one of the biggest things I've learned while working at a game store is that a large majority of just, in general, Magic players and people in the United States are downright nasty, fake, and bitter towards each other. It's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. You don't have to be that way towards your fellow player. Possessions and owning certain things, it's not worth it in the end. Your relationships that you have with people is more important than some, trivial card game. Players like those that like to angle shoot for wins and just be rude to people and, make sure that other people have a bad time, that's just not worth it. If you name it, I've experienced it, and I mean, it comes to the point where this is a much needed war cry for the community, not just the local Modesto community, but the local and at large Magic community. A lot of competitive players are getting their stuff stolen at big events. They wouldn't get their stuff stolen if all of us as Magic players came together and watched each other's backs. If you turn around and you see someone's backpack is unattended, your first thought shouldn't be to steal it. We're all Magic players coming together to play this fun game. Everyone's invested just as much as you have. Some people obviously have invested tons more. I'm looking at you, Rudy. We're all about to sit down and play games with cardboard. Most of the time, you purchase those cards or can afford to buy a booster pack, whether you play it online or on a phone, or even proxy every single card on the back of basic lands. You live in a place where you can even do that. If you're even hearing this, you're richer than more than 95% of the world. So when I say you should cheer on your friends and make lots of them, I mean exactly that. If you're lucky enough to even have friends, I mean, there's some of you guys, I don't know, if you need a friend, message me. I don't know. If you're lucky enough to have friends, cheer them on whether they're winning or losing. Never let them fall emotionally from your support. Everybody loses. We all lose. A good friend will listen to a story of a loss and help your friend analyze it at what went wrong and how they feel they can improve for next time. Relish in their victories alongside them. Be a good listener, and be weary of too many humble brags. If we all were more supportive of each other, everyone's experience at events would be phenomenal. These actions will form a lasting bond that will help reinforce learning in a competitive atmosphere. Also, if you're socially anxious and nervous about making friends at your card shop, hey, that's okay too. We share a common hobby, we play Magic together. There are a lot of different types of these players, from the obvious quiet guy or girl that just hovers around the room and glances at you but doesn't chime in, or the broski type that is nervous, so he's loud about how much he sucks and doesn't understand this card game. That's okay. We're here to learn something that interests us. Obviously, something about this game has drawn us together, so embrace those around you that have come into your life. For better or worse, we all make up this community, and it's in all of our best interest for the quote-unquote good players to band together to reinforce this community as a good, positive, safe place. Things like theft, violence, hatred, bigotry, fear, resentment, that all has no place around me or my community. So call this a war cry, call it a mission statement. To be a better Magic player, it comes down to being a better person. As long as we each hold ourselves accountable to a higher standard, the Magic community will become the best community it can be. Alright, so I know that got pretty serious, but those are the 5 things that I would say are the best things to make you a better Magic player and just a better person, better gamer overall. You can pretty much apply these to just about any game. Let's just go over them one more time. So remember, be humble, never give up until the game is actually over, always be prepared physically and mentally, work on skills that you'll be able to keep and apply to other things in your life, and make sure you make friends and cheer on your friends, because those friends will cheer you on and help you also in any walks of life. Alright you guys, let's go over what we opened in this box now. So one thing I noticed about this box, it felt like I opened a lot of these cards from like the half or the tail end of a print run to the beginning of a print run. You can see that with it having so many duplicates. That doesn't feel normal to have like 2 of this rare, 2 of that rare, 2 of this rare, 2 of that rare, just kind of over and over. I'm not complaining though. I ended up getting 2 Disallow, and Disallow is probably one of my favorite cards out of the set. But we opened a veritable fuck ton of mythics. Excuse my language, but I mean, that's just what happened. We also hit a foil mythic and an invention. So this is the second video I've recorded in like 2 days, and both boxes had inventions. I don't know what that's all about. I don't know if they're as rare as they are saying they were, or maybe I'm just lucky at this point. Who knows? Maybe I'm just lucky. We did hit one of the demons. That's pretty cool. That the Herald or whatever. So it's pretty sweet. I'm really happy to have gotten the invention. This box, like I said, was part of a raffle, so this is all just great value for me. I can't really say much else about it. It was an insane box. I hope you guys like this little rant I threw in here too. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll have the prices going up right now. And like I said, there's not too much to complain about here. It's mostly all profit. So it was just a really sweet box to open, and you could see I got pretty insanely excited when I opened the Worm Coil engine. So I hope you guys enjoy the new set and you're having fun cracking your packs and all that stuff. I will have a couple deck brews coming out in the next few days. I'm gonna go ahead and share my standard brew. I really like my deck, and I'm just going to be playing that until I get so destroyed by my local meta that I just decide to brew something else to help beat my meta. I pretty much just stick to my local meta, just so you guys know. So if you don't like the brews that I come up with, I can't blame you. They're meta specific. So I hope you guys have a good one. Take it easy. This has been Scott with MTG Mind Games. Peace.